Hello, student. I, Dr. Shafali Jain, Assistant Professor at Thankar Mahavir University. Student, in this unit, in this block, we will also discuss the scope of macroeconomics. And in the previous video, we also discussed the meaning of macroeconomics and the nature of macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is the branch that studies behavior and performance of an economy as a whole. It focuses on the aggregate changes in the economy, such as unemployment, growth rate, gross domestic product, and inflation. Macroeconomics studies the concept of national income, its method and measurement. Macroeconomics studies the problem related to the employment and unemployment. Macroeconomics studies functions of the money and theories related to it. Banks and other financial institutions are also a part of its studies. So, uh, student macroeconomics study as a whole, and it study unemployment, inflation, gross domestic product, and saving, investment. So, in the simple words, macroeconomics is the study of aggregates or averages covering the entire economy, such as total employment, national income, national output, total investment, total consumption, total saving, aggregate supply, aggregate demand, and general price, wage level, and cost structure. In the other words, it is aggregative economics which examine the interrelation among the various aggregates, their determinations and causes of fluctuation in them. Macroeconomics, in its is the study of economies' total output, employment, and its price level. Macroeconomics macroeconomics is related to the large. It concerns the overall dimensions of economics life. Macroeconomics does not deal with the individual quantities or incomes, but with the aggregate of these quantities, not with individual income, but with the national income, not with the individual prices, but with the general price level, not with the individual output, but with the national output, as individual is related to microeconomics. So, macroeconomics is also known as the theory of income and employment, or simply income analysis. It is concerned with the problem of unemployment, economic fluctuation, inflation, deflation, international trade, and economic growth. It is study of the causes of unemployment and its various determination of employment. In the field of business cycle, it concerns itself with the effect of the investment of total output, total income, aggregate employment. In the we have also discussed it in the previous video. In the monetary field, it studies effect of total quantity of money on the general price level. In international trade, the problems of balance of payments and foreign aids fall within the purview of macroeconomics analysis. So, macroeconomics study discuss the problem of determination of total income of a country and the causes of its fluctuation. It studies the factor that relates growth and those which bring the economy on the path of economic development. So both microeconomics and macroeconomics uh, involve the study of economics, but microeconomics study individual and macroeconomics study aggregate. In microeconomics, we studies the individual household, individual firms, and individual industries, etc. while on the other hand, macroeconomic, macroeconomics not only deal with the great aggregates and average of the system as a whole, but also attempt to define these aggregates in a useful manner and to examine how they are related and determined. So now we are also study the scope of the macroeconomics in this lecture. Here, the scope of macroeconomics. The scope of macroeconomics is related to national income, gross national product, total consumption, total saving, that total investment, aggregate demand, aggregate supply, per capita income, standard of living of people, total employment, trade cycle, inflation, etc. From the subject matter of the macroeconomics. It studies a forest as the whole, not individual trees. As microeconomics, according to the Professor Ackley, as it studies the behavior, uh, macroeconomics, according to Professor Ackley, it studies the behavior of the aggregate. It is also known the aggregative methods. And the scope of the macroeconomics is the theory of national income, theory of employment, macro theory of distribution, economics development, theory of international trade, theory of money, theory of business fluctuation, and theory of general price level. First of all, macroeconomics study the aggregate analysis. Macroeconomics denotes a comprehensive view of a big pictures perspective. In macroeconomics, the on focus on aggregates economic variables such as total output. Total output yani gross domestic product or GDP. Total employment, aggregate price level, is inflation, and the overall level of economic activity. Instead of examining the individual markets or firms, macroeconomics analyzes the behavior of entire economy. With it, macroeconomics is closely associated with policy formulation and management. It aims to provide the policy makers with insight to the functioning of economy and potential impact of policy measures. Macroeconomics study the effectiveness of fiscal policy, which is made by which is related to government spending and taxation, and monetary policy, which is related to central banks' action in achieving economic objects such as full employment, price stability, and sustainable economic development. So, macroeconomics examines various aggregate economics variables to understand the overall performance of the economy. The- these include gross domestic product, the total market value of all final goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific time and period. It's also study unemployment rate, the percentage of the labor force that is unemployed and actively seeking employment. It is also study inflation rate, the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising over time. And it is also related to the study of aggregate demand and supply, the total demand for the goods and services in an economy and the total supply of the goods and services respectively. So macroeconomics often use simplified model of analyze the relationship between different macroeconomics variables. These models such as aggregate demand, aggregate supply model, the Keynesian cross model, ISLM model provide framework for understanding how changes in one variables affect other affect others and how various policy measures impact the economy. So, if see in the international perspective, macroeconomics also consider the global context and international linkage of economy. It examines factors such as international trade, exchange rate, capital flows, and global economic interdependencies. Global events and developments can have significant uh, implications for a country macroeconomics performance. Macroeconomics also play a very important to analyze the international dimension. So the as you know, economy is dynamic and subject of fluctuation over time. Macroeconomics seeks understand the causes of economic fluctuations, such as business cycles, characterized by a period of expansions and contractions. It explores the factors driving economic growth as well as the causes of recession and depression, aiming to develop policies to stabilize the economy and promote long-term prosperities. In essence, the nature of macroeconomics revolves around analyzing the economy as a whole, understanding the relationship between aggregate economic variables and formulating policies to achieve macroeconomics objectives such as stable price, full employment, and sustainable growth. It provides a framework for comprehensively assessing and managing the overall performance of the economy. So, if we are talking about the scope of macroeconomics, a broad range of topic and area of study that analyze the economy as a whole. Now, we also overview the scope of the macroeconomics. First of all, theory of national income. National income, macroeconomics examine the total output of goods and services produced within an economy, gross domestic product and GDP, and its component, including consumptions, investment, government spending, and net exports. It investigates factor fluctuation changes in national income over time and across different economies, just like it is theory of employment. It's employment and unemployment. Macroeconomics analyze labor market dynamics, including the level of employment and unemployment within a country, yeah, within an economy. It studies factors affecting job creations, labor force participation rates, these determinations, and the impact of the unemployment of economic performance and social welfare. So, next is here macroeconomics theory of distribution. So, macroeconomics hold a big role to significance in understanding managing modern economics due to a several key reasons. Macroeconomics provides policymakers with essential tools and frameworks for formulating effective economic policies. Government rely on macroeconomics analyze to design fiscal policies related to government expenditure and taxation, monetary policies related to money supply and interest rate, aim to achieving macroeconomics objectives such as stable price, full employment, and sustainable economic growth. With it, by focusing on aggregate economic variables such as GDP, unemployment, and inflation, macroeconomics helps economists and policymakers understand the overall behavior of the economy. It allows It allows them to identify trends, patterns, and relationships between different economic indication, indicators, providing insights into the health and performance of the economy as a whole. With it, macroeconomics play a crucial role in economic forecasting and planning. By analyzing historical data and economic trends, macroeconomics can make projections about future economic condition and anticipate potential challenges or opportunities. This information is uh, also valuable for businesses, government, individual in making informed decision about the investment, consumptions, and resources allocation. With it, macroeconomics also very helpful to stabilize the economy and to control the fluctuation in economic activities. Macroeconomics helps policymakers understand the causes of economic fluctuation, such as business cycle, develop business cycle and develop a counter cyclic and for the development to make the policies and to control the effect of recession, inflationary pressures, stabilization uh, policies aim to promote economic stability, reduce uncertainty, and support sustainable growth the long terms. With it, macroeconomics also plays a crucial role in understanding the analyzing international economic relation. It examines issues such as trade imbalance, exchange rate, movements, capital flows, and global economic integrations. Understanding these dynamics is essential for policymakers in managing international trade and finance, addressing global economic challenges, and also cooperating among the national. With it, macroeconomics help to allocate scarce resources. We have also studies that resources are scarce and limited, its desires are unlimited. So, to allocate scarce resources efficiently by providing insights into the optimal use of resources to maximize overall economic welfare by analyzing factors affecting aggregate supply and demand. Macroeconomics guides decision about production, investment, and consumption, ensuring that resources are allocated in a way that maximize society well-being. With it, macroeconomics is concerned with improving overall society welfare by promoting economic growth, reducing unemployment, and maintaining price stability by addressing issues such as income inequality, poverty, access to essential goods and services. Macroeconomics policies aim to enhance living standards and improve the quality of life for individual and communities. So student, I hope you well understood the scope of macroeconomics. Now, broadly, the objectives of macroeconomics policies is to maximize the level of national income, providing economic growth, to uh, raise the utility and standard of living of participant in economy. There are also a number of secondary objectives which are held to lead the maximization of income over the long run. So, main is sustainability, a rate of growth which allows an increase in living standards without without undue structural and environmental difficulties. With it, the main focus and the main object of macroeconomics, where those who are able and willing to have a job can get one, and given that there will be certain amount of frictional, seasonal, and structural unemployment. With it, price stability. When price remain largely stable and there is no rapid inflation or deflation, price stability is not necessarily the same as zero inflation, but instead it should be level of low moderate inflation is often regarded an ideal. However, inflation is a good measure of the price stability. Zero inflation often undesirable in an economy. With it, equilibrium in the balance of payment without the use of artificial constraint. And with it, increased productivity, more output per units of labor per hours also since labor is one of the many inputs to produce goods and services. It could also be described as output per unit of the factors input per hour. So we can see in the briefly, macroeconomics does not deal with the individual units of the economy like firms, but it deals with aggregates like national income, total employment, aggregate demands, etc. It studies like problem related to the economy as a whole. The objective of macroeconomics is to study the problems, policies, and principles related to the full employment of resources and growth of resources. Its goals are high. Its goals are a high level and rapid growth of the output, low employment, and price level stability. The subject matter of macroeconomics is full employment, national income, general price level, and trade cycle, economic growth. Macroeconomics deals with economic aggregates like total employment, aggregate demand, etc. And the inter and with economic aggregates and studies in detail. Macroeconomics assumes factor distributions as given the and tries to explain how full employment can be achieved. Macroeconomics analysis deals with the equilibrium between the forces of demand and supply of economy as a whole. Aggregate supply and aggregate demand are expressed in terms of money as total income and total expenditure. Thus, aggregate demand and supply are related to total income. As macroeconomics is concerned with aggregate related to the society as a whole, which is as a whole. Macroeconomics suffered from paradox. It means that the act which is beneficial for an individual may disturb the working of the economy of a whole. For example, if an individual start to saves money for his, it is beneficial for his family. But if all the economy start to and give a part of saving, and its causes unemployment will increase. National income also will decrease, and recession will also come in the economy. Thus, micro decision may not hold good. Sometimes it is a paradox with microeconomics for economy as a whole. Macroeconomics analysis initially concentrated on short-term period, where technological conditions, habits, and people, population, availability of labor forces, etc., are constant. Hence, the because Keynes held that short-run analysis is more realistic. And Keynes also say in the long terms, Keynes, who is considered the father of macroeconomics, he always says in the long term, all of us are dying. So economics problems should be solved from the short term period of for short term points of view. So macroeconomics is basically policy oriented subjects. It deals with the macroeconomics policies to solve problems faced by the economy as a whole. So we can say the study of macroeconomics variables is necessarily for understanding the working of the economy. Total income, output, employment are statically and statically measurement. They are facilitating the possibilities to analyzing the effect on the fluctuations and functioning of the economy. And macroeconomics is extremely useful from the point of view of economic policies, especially underdeveloped economies um, are connected with so many national problems like overpopulation, as India is also facing these problems, inflation, deficit in the balance of payment, general underproduction, etc. The main responsibilities of the governments rest in the regulations and control of these problems. No government can solve these problems uh, in terms of individual behavior. So, the study of macroeconomics is useful for the solution of these complex economic problems. The Keynesian theory of employment is an exercise in macroeconomics. The level of employment is an economic depends. The Keynesian theory of employment is an exercise in macroeconomics. The level of employment is an economy depends upon effective demand, which in terms depend on aggregate demands and aggregate supply. Unemployment caused by deficiency of effective demand. To eliminate unemployment, effective demand should be raised by increasing total investment, total output, total income, and total consumption. Thus, macroeconomics has a special significance in studying and has a broad scope, the causes and effect and remedies of general employment. The study of macroeconomics is very important for the evaluating the overall performance of the economy in terms of national income. From the Great Depressions of the 1930s, it became necessary to analyze the cause of great general overproduction and general unemployment. National income data help in forecasting the level of economic activity and the distribution of income among different groups of people in the economy. With the help of macroeconomics, monetary problems can be analyzed and understood properly. Changes in value of money, inflations, deflation can be counter-adapted by the adopting monetary and fiscal policies and the economy as a whole. Economic growth is also studied in the macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is helpful for framing of development plans to attain overall increase in national income. Output employment are framed and implemented so as to raise the level of economic development of the economy as a whole. And it also importance of macroeconomics lies in analyzing the causes of economic fluctuation and in providing remedies. For understanding the behavior of individual unit, the study of macroeconomics is imperative. Demand for individual products depend upon aggregate demands in the economy. Unless the causes of deficiency in aggregate demand are analyzed, it is not possible to understand the reason for the fall in demand for the individual product. So we can see macroeconomics enriches our knowledge of functioning of an economy by studying the behavior of national income, output, and employment. And moreover, it is helpful in solving the problems of unemployment, inflation, economic instability, and economic growth. With it, there are some also limitations in the macroeconomics. We also fallacy of composition. In macroeconomics, the fallacy of composition. is involved. That means aggregate economic behavior is the sum total of individual activities. What what is true to individual is not necessarily true of the economy as a whole. For example, saving are the virtue. Yeah, saving is beneficial for the individual, but wise for public, because if one person give a parts of the saving, it is beneficial for his family, but the whole economy, if the give parts to the saving, it becomes depression and recession in the economy. If total saving in the economy increases, it may initiate a depression unless they are it may the causes of depression and unemployment, and with it to regard the aggregate as homogeneous. In the macroeconomics, the main defect is that it regards the aggregates as homogeneous. The average wage in the country is the sum total of the wages in all occupations, but the volume of aggregate employment depend on the relative structure of wages rather than the average wage. With it, aggregate variables may not be important necessarily. The aggregate variables which from the economic system may not be much significant. For example, as the national income of a country is the total of the all individual income. A rise in national income does not mean that individual income have rises. As a result, to increase the income of few rich persons, few rich people, national income will be rise. Thus, a rise in national income of this type has a little significance from the point of view of the community. Here, Professor Bolding also calls these difficulties as macroeconomics paradox, which are true when applies to a single individual, but which are untrue when applied to the economic system as a whole. With it, an indiscriminate and uncritical use of the macroeconomics is analyzing and the problem of the real world can often be misleading. For example, if the policy measure needed to achieve and maintain full employment in the economy are applied to structural unemployment in individual firms and industries, they become irrelevant. Similarly, measures aimed at controlling general prices cannot be applied with much advantage for controlling prices of the individual product. So, Strand, hope you understood well. In this video, you understood well the scope of macroeconomics. Now, thank you. Thank you very much.